You are Locked On Rockets Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Houston on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what a nice bounce back win for the Houston Rockets tonight as they take down the New York Knicks, and they absolutely dominate down the stretch, scoring 9 straight points in the basketball game and get that win that they needed after a tough loss against the Golden State Warriors a couple of nights ago to possibly set this team up for a winning homestand that they will try to finish off against the San Antonio Spurs on Wednesday night. Hello and welcome tonight to the Locked On Rockets Postcast. Appreciate you guys for stopping by. I am your host, Michael Connor. As always, if you're new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button. Come on back. See us again. If you are watching this later on, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate however you found us here on the Locked On Rockets Postcast. We are with you after every single game and hopefully talking about more losses than wins. And that's exactly what we got tonight for the Rockets, as they move to 4-3 now on the season with the 109-97 victory over this New York Knicks team. It's always nice to beat the Knicks. Always nice to beat the New York Knicks. Tonight's episode, by the way, is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. So I know you guys probably had a great time tonight. I will say this. I'll get my one complaint of the evening out of the way right now. The 7:45 tip tonight. Yeah, I just love that. Big fan of that. It's 10 o'clock. It's whatever. I just got to get up super early tomorrow. I got to go take my wife to the airport at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to get a lot of sleep. I understand. But a good night. Good night for this team. They needed a win like this after the other night. You know, the other night they played in that Golden State game, a really, really good basketball game in the second half, and they clawed their way back. And by doing that, gave themselves an opportunity to go win. And tonight, really, I think one of the things that I take away from it, is that they jumped out to a lead in the first quarter. And yeah, they absolutely gave up that, what was it, like a 15-point lead at one point, and it got closer. But you go back and look, they didn't lose a single quarter tonight. Overall, about as consistent as you can get in a basketball game tonight. 31-26 in the first. Both teams scored 30 in the second. They outscored New York 20-19 in the third, and then 28-22 in the fourth to seal the deal. They played a really solid basketball game overall tonight to get that victory. Is everything perfect? No, of course not. But what is perfect is that in the clutch down the stretch, and this is something that, you know, I've talked about, and I know that at times I can be guilty of it, getting a little too critical of, you know, the offense or a particular player or whatnot. But tonight, they needed a lot of things late. They were right there. They were teetering, right? There was a chance that they could screw this thing up. I'm sorry, I'm going to move my camera. My nephews were in here earlier today, and it looks like they've moved everything. I should have noticed that before we started. I'll mess with it more after we get done later. Just a little bit. It's going to bug me. I'm sorry. It's going to bug me. It does. Stop messing with my things. They come in here and they do their homework, and then they touch everything, I swear. But they needed to close that game out tonight. And I'm going to give him the praise right now because I know that I can be a little too harsh on Jalen Green. And I do that more than anything out of desire for him to be great. Desire for him to be a legit, give me the ball, put it in my hands type of guy. He hit a couple of clutch threes there late in that fourth quarter. He got the ball and did his thing. And, you know, he might not have had a great night overall. What were his final numbers? Jalen Green's final numbers tonight. 5 of 16, 2 of 8 from 3. Not a night to write home about at all. Not a good night. But at the end of the day, when they needed him to hit a big three there late, he knocked it down. He knocked down 2 of them. And I will give him the credit for that. They needed that, and that helped a ton. The other thing that we, of course, don't, and I'm guilty of it because so much of this game, this sport, this league is caught up in offense, right? Like you're going to typically make it and go as far as you want to go based off of how good you are on the offensive side of the basketball. Defensively, and look at what they did tonight. They played a New York team that I mentioned this at the end of the show a couple of nights ago. How good the New York Knicks offense has been this season. Pulling up their numbers coming into this game here tonight. Overall as a team, and they're basically a top 5 offense in the league, which is crazy when you think about the Tom Thibodeau team. But coming into this one tonight, they were first in 3-point percentage. They were 10th in points per game, which is really good. 5th in turnovers. So they don't do that a lot. Haven't been a good rebounding team. That's an area that they're not good at. But overall, they've been one of the more efficient offenses in the sport so far this season. And it's a very small sample size. I get that. And the Rockets went out there tonight, held them to 38% from the field, 39 from 3. They were 11 of 28. They shot the free throw line well, but you can't defend that. And the Rockets did all this on a night, and they got the win on a night, whereas for themselves as a team, they shot just 8 of 33 from 3. That's 24%. 24%. And they went out there and they found it. And it happened because they found things late. They found clutch shots late. They played really solid defense all night. Yeah, Jalen Brunson, he went off and got 29. Took him 24 shots to get there. But he had a pretty typical Jalen Brunson night. Anunoby had a pretty good night. Their starters overall, and they look at the points department, they'd probably feel okay about all those guys, what they got. They got nothing out of their bench. They played 3 players at the bench. They got 3 bench points. Did the Knicks tonight. The Rockets had, what is that? 30 points off the bench. That's right. I did math off the top of my head looking at the box score because the game, the NBA game book hasn't updated yet, at least the last time I looked at it. But a really, really good win over one of the better teams in the NBA. I know that they're now 3-3 of the Knicks. They're going to be one of the better teams in the NBA. They're going to be one of the better teams in the East unless they just, turn into the Knicks. And man, like I put up there on the screen, isn't it always nice to still beat New York? I know that the 90s and a lot of you probably watching this show weren't around for it. Like I was just a toddler when the Rockets beat the Knicks in the in the NBA Finals back in 1994. But there's that arrogance to New York, right? There's that arrogance that it's the big bad Knicks. What big bad Knicks? They've accomplished basically nothing in my entire lifetime. Nothing. They've been to the finals, what, twice in my lifetime, probably? I think. They lost the Spurs. They lost the Rockets. That's it. That's it. They're nothing to fear. They'll find their way to be the Knicks at some point or to be a New York team at some point. And it just will never get old. Hopefully, when you face them at the Garden. I always enjoy watching the Rockets go into the Garden. It was always nice when Harden would go in there and just rip it off. Now, Jalen Green, it's your turn. Go into the Garden and rip it off. More efficient night, longer night, better night. But hit those big shots late like he did tonight. Let's talk Alperen Sengun. Big night for him at the Toyota Center. And it looks like maybe, just maybe, the man is getting his touch back. Talk about that next year on the Locked On Rockets Postcast. I'll tell you guys right now about BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Well, they are here to help you. Look, we can all have periods of our life where, things might not be going great, right? You might need some benefit from getting through these things by speaking to somebody. That's what BetterHelp is here for. Tough times in life, they come. They absolutely come. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible, and it's suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist at any time for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. And this edition of the Locked On Rockets Postcast, for those of you watching live or later on, is going to be a battle between me and my mustache hairs because they're poking me in the nose as I'm talking. I'm telling you. Just want to shave this thing off sometimes. My wife loves it. Can't do that. Appreciate you guys for stopping by tonight. If you're new to the channel, as I always tell you, hit that subscribe button. Come back. We'll be with you again Wednesday night when the Rockets play the San Antonio Spurs. We'll take a little bit of a look at that coming up in just a bit. We'll also be with you Friday night when the Rockets play in Oklahoma City against the Thunder. We'll even be with you Sunday afternoon when the Rockets play the Detroit Pistons at the 2:00 game on Sunday. And then Sunday, it's an all Detroit-Houston Sunday. You got Rockets and Pistons Sunday night or Sunday afternoon. Texans and Lions Sunday night. Please, sports gods, give me a miracle on Sunday. I'm not worried about the Rockets. The Rockets will beat the Pistons. I know that's going to happen. But also give us the miracle of a Texans win over the Lions. I know it's probably not happening, but one can dream, right? Thank you. You're welcome, Houston. Got you all locked in with Locked On. Thanks to Locked On. They sent me another shirt today. Got like 3 shirts from the fine folks at Locked On in the last 2 months. And I try to, we try to represent because we love Locked On. We love you guys. Rockets, though, by the way, if you're looking for this show, I just got to get it all the way. If you're looking for this show on podcast, go search for Locked On Rockets anywhere that you get your podcast. It's free. You'll get this show and the Locked On Rockets podcast, the daily podcast from Jackson Gatlin. Does a wonderful job talking your Rockets on a daily basis. Make sure you go check out his show on top of this one and keep yourself as informed as it gets when it comes to the Rockets on a daily basis. Alperen Sengun. Big night tonight for him, for Alpy, right? Turns out his family, by the way, I heard the post-game interview there with Space City Home Network, and he was asked about how nice is it to do this in front of your family. His family's in town from Turkey. Checking him out, playing some professional basketball in the States. I'm sure it's not their first time. They've probably been a few times. But still, 25 points tonight. He was like, it's really great to be able to have a game like this tonight so my dad won't be mad at me. You forget still sometimes that how old is Alpy now? Is he 20? Is he 22? 22. 22 years old. Won't be 23 until next offseason. Forget still they're super young. I do fall, I'm admitting to being guilty of certain things at times. I'm guilty of that too, is that I'll get maybe a little too far ahead of it. And while they're multiple years in the league now, at times I do have to remind myself, hey, this guy is 22 or this guy's 21, this guy's 19, whatever it might be. They're still a young and growing team in certain areas. Now tonight, Alpy got his mojo back when it comes to the offensive end of the basketball. It has not been the prettiest of starts to a regular season for Alperen Sengun. The rebounding numbers have looked good. The defensive effort, or the defensive ability at times has not been He's been pulled off the floor a little bit, but he came into tonight averaging just 15 points, which really last year he jumped to, what was it, 21 per game? You know that he wants to be around those numbers. He wants to push to be an all-star. Who wouldn't? He wants to earn that 5-year, was it $185 million contract that he just signed. 25 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, had 4 blocks as well. And I think the best part of it was, now this guy's never been known for defense by any means, but man, oh man, did he make Karl Anthony Towns look silly. Karl Anthony Towns on the defensive side of the basketball is an absolute liability for the New York Knicks, which is so funny that Tom Thibodeau, a guy that's always been known as defense, strapped himself in with a guy that, sure, he has size. Karl Anthony Towns, okay, here's hyperbole for you. I'll give you a dose of it. I could score on Karl Anthony Towns. I know I can't. Maybe if I just miracle throw one up or, kick him in the lower region and then run by him. It's the only opportunity I have. But one can dream, right? I do appreciate dreaming. Who doesn't? But Alpie cooked him. Absolutely cooked him all night long. You love to see it. The touch was back around the rim. That's a huge thing. And look, they need him, right? We all know that. I don't have to sit here and tell you that over and over. You know that. They need Alpie to play like the guy that he was last season consistently. That's, if there is a number one, I'm the best offensive player on this team, it's Alperen Sengun. And they need him to play like that consistently. If anybody was freaking out after, a few games that, oh my goodness, he looks so bad this season or whatever. Excuse me, the yawns just hit. They just hit. I'm telling you, we should have been in bed by now. I would have been asleep. I absolutely would have been asleep. This is the old man in me. But Alpie was everything that they needed from him tonight. And that's the guy that they need to show up, every single night when they're out there. And there's always going to be a matchup that doesn't favor him playing a lot. There's always going to be a matchup that's difficult for him to, to be on the floor consistently. I understand all of those things. But this was a matchup that was, it was primo for him. The next game against the San Antonio Spurs, not so much. He's got a good run of, other opponents coming up that he probably should fare pretty well against. And, even though, like I mentioned the Spurs one, not so much, like he's going to have to get over that. We all know that. He's going to have to figure out how to play better and consistently and be effective against Victor Wembanyama. But this guy tonight was the Alperen Sengun that everybody expects, correct? Yes. Yes, Michael, you are correct. Toss the rock down to the paint. Let him cook. Let him do his thing. He's always going to make good passes when he needs to pass the ball out. He's going to do all the things offensively that you need. And he sets up that inside-out game as well. He helps when he's going offensively and he's going to where you're throwing him the ball on the block and forcing defenders to crash on him or double to whatever it might be. You're either going to get cutters running to the rim where he's going to make his slick passes, or you're going to get guys collapsing on him. He's going to leave somebody open on the three-point line. You hope that it's not Amen Thompson. You hope it's not a lot of guys. You hope it's Reed Shepherd, I guess, more than anybody. Although Reed tonight was, 1 of 4. Congrats to Reed. Career high 7 points. Got to keep going up. Keep going up, buddy. You got this. But when Sengun is doing his thing, it just creates a lot more opportunity. And yes, the offense slows down when he's out there compared to, when they're running second units out there, whatnot. Excuse me. I really feel bad doing that on camera, but it just keeps happening now. That's the all-star level of Sengun that we're all expecting. Now you just got to find a way to bottle it up, keep it rolling, keep doing your thing, and this basketball team can rack some wins together. Speaking of wins, they got one the last time that they played the San Antonio Spurs. They did get the win tonight over the Knicks, which is always fantastic. They will need to take another shot at the Spurs coming up in a couple of nights at the Toyota Center. We will discuss that here in a brief moment on the Locked On Rockets Postcast. I will tell you guys right now about FanDuel. FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com is the place for you to get in on the action. Get ready to tackle all the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place the bets live on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more. Fit with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked On Rockets Postcast continues here on a Monday. Appreciate you guys for joining me, your host, Michael Connor. If you are new to this channel, as I always remind you, please keep hitting that subscribe button. You guys have been wonderful. We are on a climb towards, I think, 2,200 subscribers. This channel's only been around since April, so I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Of course, this channel is Rockets, Texans, Cougs football. Going to get some Cougs basketball in there. Not tonight's game. They crushed Jackson State. And Astros baseball. So we're with you for Rockets now. We got Texans still. We got Cougs for a little bit longer. And then before you know it, we'll be back to baseball season as well. It'll be very busy once again on this channel. And I'm always appreciative of, we went through the entire baseball season. Then I had like a 2-week period where we were basically off. We just had, like one game. I don't like being still. I think that's the thing that comes when you're older. So I miss the everyday of baseball. It's weird. Absolutely weird. But who doesn't love a night off occasionally, right? So tomorrow night we'll get a night off. We'll get to watch. Well, I don't get to watch anything anymore. That's just how my new world goes. I don't get to watch anything. I just get to, I get to do other things. Rockets, though, going to take on the Spurs Wednesday night at the Toyota Center. Already the third matchup of 4 between those two this season. I don't love scheduling. I don't. I think it's stupid. I don't think it makes any sense that you play a team 4 times in the regular season and 3 of them are within the first 8 games of the year. Why? And they're right down the road. It's not like it's a long trip. Like the Rockets were over there in San Antonio the other night for 2 nights in a row. Why? I don't get it. I just don't. Never will. So there's my beef for that. The beef that I will have is that if they lose to the Spurs again, there's a little bit of juice there between these two teams. You saw it get a little scrappy the last time that they played each other. I'm good with that. I don't think the Spurs are very likable. They, by the way, will not have Greg Popovich. In all seriousness, hopefully Greg Popovich is okay. Whatever's going on with him medically. I forget the coach, their bench coach or whatever. That's one of their guys on the bench that's coaching the team through this period. But no Greg Popovich there. The biggest matchup of the night always comes down to Wemby versus Sengun. Can Sengun hold his own? Can he ever put together a matchup that allows you to keep him on the floor. There's such a height mismatch. And it's one of those games where, Steven Adams is going to have to come in. It's good to see him out there on the floor, even if it's for, brief spurts. Tonight, Adams gave you, 14 minutes off the bench? 5 rebounds. But that's one of those games that you like to see Adams come out and be a little bit of an enforcer. Get physical with him when you play. So we'll see what happens. Of course, after the game ends Wednesday night, we'll be right here live for it on the Locked On Rockets Postcast. Fun one tonight because they won. They got that 109-97 victory over the Knicks, improving the record to 4-3 on the season, 2-2 now at the Toyota Center. Thank you to all of you that stuck around after the game tonight, even though it's a little bit later, and watch this Locked On Rockets Postcast. Like I mentioned, don't be a stranger to the channel. We do this after every game. Join us again Wednesday night after Rockets and Spurs. Again, on Locked On Rockets Postcast. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.